The parasitic hive, the colonization, the humanoid centipede circle jerk. I use, for lack of a better term, because it's a waste of my time, but I do have to label it as something similar that we have here on Earth for the archival and for just context and detail purposes. It's parasitic because it requires the host to stay alive, and it doesn't grow, it spreads, it recolonizes, it self-sustains by maintaining that centipedic circle jerking. And the difference between this virus, bacteria, infection is a parasite harms the host that it is requiring to live. It also, for this parasitic hive, when I use the term humanoid, it is not in a way of a vessel, like a good scrub down or detox would remove the parasite. No. This is inbred time and time again from the very beginning. It was converged. And I use the word converged because there is no separation of the two. Versus when back in the past timelines, demons would use low vibe vessels to kind of ride around in. I think the words were possession or something. Or they would ride around in those that they had agreements with of the actual vessel. That's different. I do want to point out that in the perception of those who are demonic or evil, then actually have the principality, because there is structure everywhere besides this parasitic hive. Everything you've been told and know has been a lie. Demons who have the principality and the proper passes and all this other paperwork and stuff like that, they're able to ride on certain vessels for many different reasons. There's always a paperwork, they just don't willy-nilly go running around. They don't even do that in what you have been told hell is. A lot of these beings that, from past timelines, aren't actually part of that area, that sector. They're actually from different realms, and such like that. I don't really want to go too much in that because I want to focus on an update of this parasitic hive colonization. Now see, when I say hive, I don't mean like a beehive or a wasp. It's like a structure almost like a ring on a tree trunk. Because that's how they colonize. They spread out and they're in every community. I mean, they're everywhere. They've created and weaponized, and they're really, really substantial in creating the main features of why you're enslaved. And I don't want to focus on that, because even then, the centipetic hive at its core, even from the perception of what they believe was the beginning of time, they actually aren't even, in any sense, like a management level. They really have no. They aren't the ones that are perceived as heavy hitters. They blend in locally at a maybe community level. They're not going to be like a celebrity that makes a lot of they're not going to be a successful celebrity, or I guess the level would be like maybe a handful of judges, or like doctors. They usually work out different collaborative handshaking and affiliations with other people in the community. It's very, it's actually very collaborative. And see, that's why you may not be at that parasitic level of understanding. It's almost a detachment. You could say it's inbreeding, but it's parasitic at its core. They just look like a lot of what you considered humanoids or humans, which, fun fact, in fact, this is also true. There isn't a basic human, like a stick figure. There aren't humans, and they haven't had just a human on this planet. That's why they really got everybody fighting with each other over, they just repeat the same thing over and over again. Sometimes they kind of tweak it here and there. They are very central to the trafficking. They're the middle level, the low level, and they self-sustain and contain this colonization a really long time by conditioning. And I mean, you could survive and continue to do exactly what that umbrella term is if you just birth the next round. And that's where it's like the circles, the rings of a tree trunk, because it just, once certain hives, and they have a kid in a certain moment, then that kid, and it just, but it's very, very, very basic. It doesn't actually have a purpose. It just kind of mirrors others, which is really why they got to certain levels. A lot of it was by just sheer chance or, I don't unaliving certain people, but nothing in a sense where there's a lot of planning. They do not have the capacity or the ability to and I don't want to compare it to like an animal even, or an insect. Even at the micro and macro, and this is why, for lack of a better word, I used parasitic. Because it's very at the root and the nature. Which is why they're very sloppy. And why they essentially, while we were being enslaved and they were pretty much just feeding us shit, and they were just still feeding each other the same shit, and they keep doing it. And they lack the control. It's fascinating to see it. It's just really fascinating as they really push off any sort of responsibility to everyone else. It's almost like once they latch onto the host, and the micro level, it's when it is like a trauma bond or a bloodline or any sort of interaction, the energy, like a vampire that siphons your energy. And in that same, it's also similar to just starting shit to get off on seeing the drama, like on a really petty level, but then on the thing, they're like what we call chaos creators, but not like in the demon sense. They're actually worse than a demon, because there's structure in that, and there is purpose in that as well. On the parasite, it's sloppy, it's incapable of expanding, and it won't stop. It will not stop. It will be on the macro level, Earth. It won't stop because it just, almost like it's stunted, detached or distorted. I find it fascinating, like if you were to even have a conversation back in the past timelines, it's like kind of like the brain shuts off and you can kind of see like nothing is going on there. But then you can look at an animal and see that there's understanding and clarity, maybe just not an equal level, but it's almost like that. And that's why it's not where a predator, like a wolf or those who are psychotic or sociopaths or serial killers, they are in that predatory aspect. They study where the parasite lacks that ability. It just mirrors. It forgets at certain points, especially if you've been around for a really long time. It actually, and this is where that hive terminology comes in, because it will mirror each other in an enmeshed hive of like different hive families. It's so distorted in genders, and I wouldn't even use genders because that is the category for something that's not a parasite. They may look like the multi-beings that you have been told are humans. But they're parasites. Just because they don't look like zombies, ripping off everything, feeding off of you, and literally won't stop, it's like that. They are very significant in communities, especially when it deals with sex trafficking and children and pedophiles, and dark webs, but it's real sneaky, almost like a power level, but it's just been taught to them, literally generational. It's like spreads. It's not at a level of like evil, like demons, but they're ick, I would say. It's like the herpes or whatever kind of STDs. They're very significant too of, like I said, like demons kind of get stuck in them, or they just ride around. Back in, they would go get their bus passes, because essentially riding around in that hive colonization, it's like taking a Greyhound bus, but like those dirty ones. It's those type of demons that only get those bus passes to ride around, and it's not just one. And they really, it's like a clown car, and that's where back in past timelines you would have one humanoid being ridden around with like 8 different or more. They just stuff them all in there, and we would say that those would be labeled as incubus and succubus, and they would just really kind of, for a night out of town kind of perception, really get as many as they can, because that's why it's like a discount, and they would ride around, and that's why they are very significant in the communities of just spreading the same parasitic to everybody else. So what you see is the micro and the macro level. It goes all the way down to, the atom. It's the same. And that's why the affiliation and working even with ignorance, or the fact that you just look the other way, just the community collaborative effort at this time in the game is an infection. Like the Earth is the Merkaba. Like I'm driving this motherfucking planet. It's like Dead Space, and fuck no. Are you serious? When did you get bit by a zombie on Walking Dead? Come on. And if you get triggered and like, oh, no, I'm sure there's some sort of way we can rehab or the therapy or whatever it is that you're infected. Yeah, that is the truth. Because if it's not a truth, then it's a lie. And if it's a lie, then it doesn't exist. It's not reality. Just because you haven't turned into it and you're not like, rah, you are grabbing at anything because you can't comprehend, but the core of the parasite, it knows that just, not even when like animals, like they sense things, it's not like that. And that's why it has a sensation when it comes across anybody from the divine. They get obsessed, like in Lots of the Flame. They get so obsessed, and they can't understand, and then it's like, repeat again. They need, they covet, and they have reached a point, for some, where they were actually seeking those out. Because once you have someone from the divine, which is part of the collective, that's like, that's another ending. That's like one individual that's a divine can feed an entire community. It feeds like 2 states. It really depends. But whereas in that community, which is, they're going to run through like one person. Or what usually happens is that person develops it either kills itself, or it's killed, suicide, or it becomes part of the hive. It lives, and those are usually ones that just naturally converge. I don't really feel it's the need to really delve deep into that. The update is that a lot of them actually are very, very key players in magic and dark magic and covens and stuff like that. And I will stick with the location of just for geographical reasons, like Kansas and Missouri or whatever. And so the reason why nothing is working as it was perceived to have worked in the past timelines, or this energy, and I'm talking to those who are and have been taught certain energy type Freemason. It really, it's not working, is it? Your manipulations, your all of it, the remote viewing, the things that used to work was a perception. Because, let me state it again, if it's a lie, then it's not the truth. And it doesn't exist. If it's not the truth, it's not reality. The reason why certain past timelines, it was perceived things were working is because of it was still alive, still an illusion in this prison planet, and there are principalities of certain things at those particular time frames. Like I said, with those who would make contracts with certain demons and deities and other multidimensional beings or ancestors and things like that, or had or born in certain bloodlines where you just either inherited or you just knew what was taught. It goes into that. It doesn't work because ethically, a lot of it was against on legal things. Legal love potions is a Ruthie. Like, just because you say magic doesn't denote the fact that you're putting something in a drink. And we're not going to get into just logic. Dumbasses. This is just a reason why those who are unable to kind of do what was done and repeat over and over again, and it's glitching, it's dismantling, and nothing's working, because it is a lie. And in truth, which is in existence, that's the reality. Now, you have to have the understanding of timelines and understand how difficult, but also simple, to be stuck using the weaponized wordage and terminology that was created to keep one bound in a constant state of everything designed, created, everything you know on this planet divides. Because if you're all divided, the hive will thrive. Because it sticks together, but it'll eat its own. Think of like a snake where it eats its tail. It's like kind of like that, but it's more like a rat. Google Rat King. It's not evil like a demon, but even and a lot of things that were done to be placed to blame on demons. Oh, my favorite truth is how those who have been on this planet have this ideology of like God, and I want to get into that. Let's just say that these chaos creators, the hive, that is like, they're like the ones that throw the rock and like, what? Oh my god, they're just, it's so patting, but it's not, and then it's just, it's really just the fact that it's an infection, and it also goes in accordance with universal law and many other applicable and astral and galactic legalities. It's being quarantined. It's stalled, it's stunted. It's in truth, not even the idea, the intent, to send it out to me and anyone else. Why, it just stays right where it needs to. I think they used to say something kind of similar like return to sender. Well, it never left the sender. It stays where it needs to. And that's where that feeling that everybody used to project on or take their burdens, their karma, and do like an energetic exchange for others, to carry that cross. That's where the smear campaigns come from, the flying monkeys. It's self-sustained, because if everyone believes that, even if they don't, but if the masses all work together, it's strength in numbers. It's what you've been conditioned to believe. That, obviously you can say that with the whole P. Diddy. That is just, that's not really a parasitic. Like I said, I really want to focus on just the parasitic hive, but isn't that fascinating that is its own little cluster all over the world, and then you have the industries. Every industry on this planet is, it's all just lies. And if it's a lie, then it's not true. And if it's not true, then it's not reality. It doesn't exist. And we're talking, all of this has always, and when they need a reset, they hide. Why do you think at one point in time they actually thought they could convince the masses that the Holocaust didn't work? Like, why? That was a lot of people that was like, no, that never happened. Why do you think that a bunch of, I mean, we're talking a lot, actually attempted to do that? Because they've done it before. And why do you think so many followed Hitler? Oh, it's because he was a really good, talker. He convinced the masses. No, that's what you've been told. That's a lot of people that just, yeah, sure, we'll go. And they did a lot of fucked up things, especially to children. They got off on suffering of others. They enjoyed it. That's really the only way they can actually release stuff. Yes, hence the distortion. So, back to what I was saying. They become obsessed with the divine. And then there's like a switch. Usually somebody from their previous human centipedic upbringing, usually they met a mother, has senses that there is a possibility at its form, in the parasitic form, like danger, but at its mental state that it can stay on, it's envy and jealous. It's almost like an ex-girlfriend or something. And I'll use the purpose for genders so you can visualize. It has conditioned the son or whatever to they all hate depending on their perceived and how they represent out to the public that's not part of the hive, with their, I think they call it their assigned births or whatever. Oh my gosh, just the whole really cut down with even the basics of colors, that's bonkers to me. Racism isn't even, it's galactal. It's because they're parasitic. It's just kind of what they do. So, if it's a female mom, it's meshed with the son, and the son they all have this strong, it's black out kind of hate towards the mother, but they hold it in. And then there's a switch, and then that hate is now projected onto whoever it is that it's usually someone from the divine. It's what they really, really covet because they can essentially use it for a really long time, but it also sets off some sort of parasitic like inner alarm, and that this is also the only thing that could fucking like destroy it. If it's something else, like other multi-dimensional being, like I said, it will either enter the hive in many different ways or other routes. So then it switches the blame, and it's fascinating. And it's all lies. It's all based on lies, which is why they all work together, even when they don't know it. From the very beginning, without even understanding, it's like there's not a comprehension to it just keeps spreading, and it will spread, and it will use anyone as a hive, and it will just keep going and going. It's disgusting. And it just places blame on those who and they've just been sitting there and they get off, and they have been watching those that have been told lies, even they are living in the lie, but they don't comprehend that, but they enjoy watching someone being told, like, oh, well, this is the villain, and it's kind of like a triangulation. It's very fascinating and interesting. One, how easy someone just believes what's being told. And I've seen this on different levels. Typically, especially for someone that's like in the divine, they'll put in the fucking effort. We're talking years to slowly condition or groom someone, and then they'll flip. Usually they'll flip around when they were able to impregnate somebody or somebody got sick. Typically they try to poison people to get life insurance. It's a system. They're the ones that it's just really inbred. And they all kind of like cluster together, and they have so much kind of shame, but they don't. The shame actually comes from the upbringing. It's fascinating, and it has taken out many, a lot. And it's a lie if it's not true. Because if it's not true, it doesn't exist. It's not reality. Those past timelines, what you perceived as timelines is a perception. Again, like I said, you have to have the comprehension. It's just speeding up is a perception too. But the reason why there's a lot of confusion and a lot of feelings, sensations, and why nothing seems to work. Because you've been quarantined, it's been stilled, it's been stalled. And that is the truth. It is not going to be reset at all. It's actually very efficiently designed by you all, in a way, kind of, sort of. You just essentially affected the ones that needed to be. There will be no energetic exchanges of what you perceive as karma, or Jesus ain't gonna carry your cross and have your whole coven, your chicken coop, your churches, all of that, your smear campaigns and all that. What you all believe, and anyone, including myself, and this is where it's really interesting, but it's a big fact, okay? And it's the truth. All, from any existence, if you all really believed, it's true, right? That's what you think. And that inbred, when you lived amongst essentially the same, that eats the same shit, that you fed yourself out back and forth and all that, you start believing, right? The same fucking lies. It's kind of like a version of the P. Diddy. It's exhausting to have so many rely on a lie and that cover and hide, which is why smear campaigns and targeting, and it's a very convergence between the humanoid aspect on that capacity level and the inner workings of like a parasitic nature. It knows, but it doesn't understand. It doesn't want to understand. It doesn't want to do anything but doing the same thing. It's not, they don't study anyone. They just mirror. It's a copy. They actually want to be the one that they are, like the host. But then they want to kill the host and be it. Which is fucking moronic and ironic, because then you are unalive. That's why it's very distorted, and why they've been able to do this for a very long time, a very, very long time, which is why the largest sex trafficking, if you follow Yellow Brick Road, it was in Epstein Island. It's not any of that. You gotta think logistically. That's smack dab, Emerald City. That's Kansas. It's lame. It's, if you know, you know. And they work in accordance to the industries like the health and food, entertainment. They all really work together, and then they work together in a collaborative effort for like the covens and the churches and the Freemasons, and it's almost like a little hidden club where they all work together to, and that's where it's weird, okay? For really no purpose, but they should be working. Demons are kind of involved in a way, like I said, there's a lot of paperwork where these are handshakes and deals that are collaborative between these different clusters on this planet. Whereas a demon, they don't go around and be like, oh sure, hey, sign this, and it has to come from other areas, because they are bound by actually the same principles and real law. They got special permits, I guess. I would use that terminology. Now, the ones on Earth, the ones that are shaking hands, they're all over the place. Like I said, there's no same fucking thing as a human. And it's fucking bonkers to me that And it's moronic and ironic that that's why demons are like, what the fuck? Like, there's like no rhyme or reason. That's why it's like really sloppy and they have to keep repeat and reset and hide things. Because they've enslaved themselves. Like they can't comprehend that they are actually imprisoned in this same imprisonment. Like what? Like what? I don't know if it's just like really a lot of inbreeding or the fact that there is some sort of parasitic thing that can spread onto these, like a zombie bite. I don't know. All I know is that it's an infection and it's quarantined. Because that's disgusting. And I also know that from the macro to the micro and all the way down to your skin and all that, that it's very, very likely, highly likely, that there's also other spreads of something kind of parasitic, whatever it is. I cannot have that being spread to those under my authority of protection. That's because if it's a lie, then it does not exist. It is not reality. This isn't an imposter or like those who have literally are playing characters mostly in the entertainment industry and it's not fake it or make it. It's not the things that one has conditioned the masses to think. And I'll just simplify it. It doesn't fucking matter what everyone fucking believes. It has no impact. It does not do anything at all. It may have been perceived to be so in past lives, in those who were essentially just not paying attention. I mean, it's been going on for a really long time. I mean, if you've always been enslaved here from the very beginning of this timeline, that they believe that they're the first, and you've been told from those before you, yada yada yada. I mean, fuck, of course you would think everything is truth or this is slaughterhouse. You're just going right back into the system. Like, and even those who are in those different cultures, they do too. It's like, unless you're part of this other area in this section. We'll get to that. Maybe in another posting. Maybe not. I don't want to give out too many spoilers. I mean, I could, because essentially, and this is the truth, I could give a spoiler to those who are being dismantled in an eradication, an extinction of ever existing. Because since you don't exist, and there's no reset, you can't make deals with anyone in existence, in any anyway, and I'm talking galactic. You sit in a fake world that you created that you have no power in at all. You have a perception, a placeholder, or you're wearing other people's identity because you have none, and that's a lot. not these hocus pocus and, bippity boppity boo. That might have worked in certain ways way back. A lot of that was more bloodline. But it doesn't trump what is the most powerful and ever, in any way, shape, or form, ever existed. Ever. Because with great power, it's not a spider bite or to hold its drain. The one true fucking thing that is the most power ever to exist and still exists. Truth. What? No way! And see, I'm talking the truth that I exist in and still exist. I'm not from this prison planet. I exist where ego and envy and evil have never lived. I exist where truth and love and you're free is profound. Wow. See, with great power, you're God. Oh, what? That's my... Oh. This is like a Mickey Mouse Club. You just can't just land on and colonize on a planet, on a land, and So, those who were in the placeholder of the authoritative powers of positions, like judges and those that are meant to, gosh, you even left that in that Bible fairy tale thing where it's just, oh my God, that's even done sloppy. You don't even follow the rules that you've created. It's like, what? And this is for those who are now just learning certain truths. Those things that you blame, like, oh, if God existed, and he wouldn't let XYZ happen, he wouldn't have this suffering and pain and all that. That's everybody around you. I could totally understand because the God that has been created and, well, shit, that's where the first smear campaign, it's it, dude, like, for real, that's why I was like, nah, I'm not into that, and then and then you realize what true power is, to know, like, to know truth, real truth, it's freedom. True freedom. It's definitely why nobody wants anybody to fill their brains with anything but bullshit to memorize. So you can't create because you're a fucking multi-dimensional being. And that is a very simplified. That's my human version of a simplification of what most of the beings that you think are human. Because with great power comes great responsibility. Fuck no. Are you serious? With great power of truth, you're a fucking God. God doesn't want people just to follow him and fear him. That's what those fucking people, humanoids, that enslaved this planet, those are the ones that created it. Those are the ones that shook hands in there. Yeah, there's treaties and stuff like that with them, multidimensional. We'll get to that. Maybe. People jumped ship, or they tried to, which is weird. It's almost like, wow, are you serious? Like, but these are kind of on the same mentality. Because I've existed in many forms. I've actually been here for a very long time. So, to know truth at this point in time, well, you actually had to be from the very beginning to be the one to say the truth. I'm talking the real truth. Because your salvation, all of that was from the very beginning. No one's gonna come and fucking save you. Is this everything? They created something that they can place blame on, kind of like, some punching bag, but they also use it to weaponize the masses, and they just switch it back and forth. And I'll tell you what, they really, really don't like the feminine embodiment, and especially the hive, because most of them they spread more with the mother figure, like the queen bee. It's just very fascinating. And that's why a lot of information has been hidden. It's, well, a lot of it is going to have to be hard work. You don't have to know all the truth to get to that level. You just needed something, to be able to know all the truth. And you can't do that unless you've literally been everything in existence. There is structure and principalities. Like I said, I've been here for a really fucking long time. I've been fucking everything. Like, I've been a fucking tree. I'll tell you what though, I could not be part of this hive. Everybody around you, it's everywhere. And they so worked hard to get me to a point where I was at their level, to contain. And then when they realized that I was even at a low level of what was perception of equal or similar to them, their parasitic nature knew that I wasn't, in a sense. So then they just kept trying to kill me, like poison, and then they kind of used smear campaigns. A lot of times where people think that someone's OD'd or was suicidal, especially if they have life insurance or policies, and they can be fraudulent documents. And this is a well-run organization. It's the largest in the fucking world, and has been since existence. It's everywhere around you. It's right in your face. You just can't see it because there's no veil. It's so well run with the conditioned knowledge, and if everyone believes it and helps with the victim blaming and all this and that, like the flying monkeys and things like that, yeah, it's all self-sustained. So it is kind of individualistic, where there was like kind of like a myth that if somebody is divine or an earth angel or starseed or something like that, the only way to kill them is if they kill themselves. I can't speak for anyone else but myself and who I am, even though for my divine collective, my gold apples, I can speak in a leadership role, but I cannot speak for anyone else. And I allow their own sovereignty because I am from an existence of where, wow, this is, once you know, you wake up and it's kind of like a Pee-wee Playhouse, but like, it's just, it's kind of like, it's crazy. I wouldn't say that hell is worse or it's perceived. Hell is just better designed and you'd have to go there to understand. And see, what you think is dark and light and evil and these labels that automatically from a very young age you have to understand which is left and right, and you have to make like, okay, that's not how it actually works anymore, like everywhere else, even on the planets in the realms where it's like a whole, it's a different static, or yeah. And I know this sounds erratic, and if you just happened upon this and that, and what you perceive as flawed or mistakes, or the lack of perfection, perfection in its, you use the words paradoxical, but in perfection, and I know the Hive especially, they use that. They use that wordage to get you all twisted around. And it's fascinating. And there's a reason why you have to essentially free will sign up to go down the black hole to enter this fucking prison planet completely in sleep. No idea from the very beginning. It's been a long fucking time, and wow. And it does warm my heart that a lot of things are coming to light. In perfection. Because if you want to use the word perfect and perfection, it's actually paradoxical. That would be very similar into what is actually at its origin, at its designment, nature, and everything around you. And we are making sure that we complete what we've already completed. This ain't my first rodeo. I've done this in many different ways. Yeah. Like infinity. I've been many names and shapes and forms. But this one especially, I'm enjoying this last shedding, this last scorpionic death to be reborn. And watching with the knowing that I need to know, even though I don't know. For I am the perfect example, which is why this is a clean slate, why it is the montage as I ride around in my Merkaba, precisely with precision, go-go speed racer. I'm on a motherfucking mission. I got a to-do list, and this is not the main. This is me going to go pick up something like an errand. It just took a really long time in the perception of time, which actually that's all incorrect. With great power to know that with great power and sovereignty and being a god and then to know that this is going on, my fucking, So, here is the truth. God didn't send Jesus here to save anyone. No one wants, the reason why I rep for him by free will and choice is because I know what I know. Because when I didn't know, I was like, are you serious? Like, he sounds like shit. Like, and a lot of it didn't make any sense. And then it's like, why am I listening to somebody that obviously, what is it with those who are in churches like molesting? And, you should Google what's going on in the Missouri. That's a pretty big case. And since December 21st, 2021 on, that timeline. And we just start year 2024. In that short period of a visual blocking in your simple form of this human creation of a calendar, all that has been revealed in archaeology that's hidden, all these new animals are being discovered in that short period of a block is more than the beginning of a certain time frame where, the beginning of the actual creation. I'm talking about different timelines when this had started. I don't want the misunderstanding that these parasitic colonizations had the proper paperwork or I'd like to say they were squatters, but that in itself would be a lie. The ones that were in a place-holding power position of, when you want to go somewhere and you got an assistant manager, but we're talking about galactic. And that's why, I don't want to get into that. There is a sense of wrath that comes with justice. Now see, I could have been a lawyer on this realm, but even when I didn't know at all anything before I came down here, that was purposeful. Just like when Jesus came down and he knew things, and there's certain other who have signed up with free will to come to this planet to assist in its ascension, it's many different things. And like I said, I can't really speak for others because we're all from places where we're sovereign, or simplifying it. So I will speak my truth. I am in existence and from, still am, will be in all affinity lines from the very fucking beginning of this entire creation. I'm not just talking the planet of creation. Great power in doing other you are not bound. What you see and perceive as royalty and power positions, it's still on one planet, and it's usually just one, like, building or a monarchy or something with crowns and stuff like that, and there's still levels. Okay, so for me, and where I'm from, by the time I was aware of what essentially was a breach of contract, many different things. And I am the one that just told judgment. And actually, I can do lots of things. It's because nobody sent me down here. Nobody made me go. Nobody. What I do is this. God didn't bring Jesus down here to save you people. Anyone here that's, oh my gosh, are you fucking kidding me? Like, make it make sense. Like, you created a character to weaponize, but also, use as a punching bag and a placeholder for blame. And anytime anything wrong happens of your own doing, because you really like pain and suffering of others, like the sacrifices, of all those other gods where, hey, you're gonna have to kill your kids and stuff like that. And then the ideology that they're all just the main god and all this other stuff. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? These are people who have pretending to be gods. And then, there's different timelines where there was different beings like that. Real fucking power? Whoa. It makes my head kind of hurt a little bit. I'm just kidding, it really doesn't because it's a portal. You want that for everybody, it's just how it is. Pretty much in the existence. Now, I can't speak for those in other, they don't really have a terminology that will make sense, but it goes beyond, but moving on. With great power and you create everything. Why would you create something to control and what? That's why the story doesn't sound right. Even the Truman Show, that was well written and directed and all. That was way better than this shit show. And this is, reality is, that is the show. Everybody's been watching this fucking planet, galactic. It's it's the best show ever. And like I said, I don't want to get spoilers. So, now that you kind of got a simplified version of Chiron's the Principalities, and why they're holding on to something so tight, it's because they need a host to stay alive. And your fancy houses and your monopoly money and all this is, it's like, you know when you're a kid and you have like a play kitchen, you have all like different play kitchen, the playground, like at school, and you'll just kind of play pretend and maybe forget that, or over time, you just weren't told what's really going on. It's very... It's not divinely designed, and it's... which is ironic, but also paradoxical, that the art imitates life. And that's why those who want to live the dream get the dream from the movies and the things that are fantasy and stuff like that. Because in real life, it's not done right. I mean, it's the same really bad casting, but I mean, if everybody's like, yeah, that's great, and it feeds the masses, I mean, you don't know any better in itself. And so when I talk about the eradication process and the truth of the matter, not because of information purposes for those who aren't really, it really won't matter at all. It's just a scatter. Because if it's a lie, then it's not true.